So I was actually born in Australia, born and grown up in Australia, and in a small town up the coast in Port Macquarie. So there was not much cultural, Indian cultural influence in the community there. We were pretty much the only Indian family there. And so growing up, I had all my exposure to Indian cinema, Bollywood films, and the Indian culture was in my home life, at home with my family. We would, listen to the music. We're Hindu by background. We would follow the customs and, the religious customs. And I would see those movies on the TV. And I fell in love with the dancing from seeing it on the screen. I guess it was a connection to my culture, having grown up here and not having that exposure otherwise, outside of my family. So I got to about year 10 at the age of about 15, and we moved to Sydney, and then the opportunity arose where now I would be able to have access to some dance classes. So that's when I started learning classical Indian dancing in Sydney through the Natyanalaya Academy with Jay Lakshmi Kandaya. So I started learning Bharatanatyam. That's what I'm trained in. So that was 25 years ago. And I continued training in Bharatanatyam until I did my Arangetram. So I was a medical student at that time. So Arangetram is your graduation performance that you do, where you showcase to the community all your various skills and all the facets of the dance. And after that, I continued to dance on a professional level with the academy. We would put on regular stage performances, and I continued to do that for quite a while until I was training for my specialty training in the hospital system, and it got a little bit tough to manage with time management with the dancing as well. So I had a small break, after which I got married, had my children, and had raised my family. Then after having my children, I missed my dancing a lot, and so then I decided I wanted to go back into some dancing again, and that's when I also started exploring Bollywood dancing, a bit more of the modern contemporary styles of dancing, and the popular film style dancing, and that's when I really fell in love with the dancing again, but also I was able to sort of combine what I'd learnt from my classical skills and bring that to the Bollywood style of dancing as well. And especially, Bharatanatyam and all classical Indian styles of dancing are very based upon storytelling, upon expression, it's a very dramatic, theatrical art form. And even the Bollywood film industry, when they sing a song, it's not just pure dance movements. They're telling a story. They're enriching the story with the words and their movements and their expressions. And so I think that that lends, the classical training lends a little bit to that, to sort of uplift even a Bollywood or semi-classical style performance. And having trained with a few other dancers in other styles as well, so we bring a lot of the Western styles, hip hop, jazz, contemporary styles, and you get an amazing fusion of dance choreography that you can bring together, in combination with the traditional classical styles, but also, India has such a wide range of tribal dances, folk dances, ritualistic dances, which are so ingrained in the culture, and they all come together in such a beautiful fusion. So I think that's what I really love about doing the dance choreography and having that creative outlet to bring all of those things together. When you hear the music, that it does touch the soul, and to be able to bring all those skills and all those styles together and to tell a story to your audience.
So would you agree that the traditional ritualistic aspects of folk forms get detached when they are performed in Bollywood films?
No, I don't think that they get detached. I mean, it depends what context the dance is being used in. But there's certainly, there are scenes where it is a traditional scene, whether it be at a wedding or whether it be at a Garba, or whether it be in a Bhangra festival, or where they are dancing that particular dance in an appropriate context and appropriate style. So certainly not detached in that scenario, but also that the choreography and the dance styles gets incorporated into the more modern fusion choreography that that is set to more modern music. But I think that's what makes it Indian. So I don't think it's detached at all. I think it just gives it that character, and it just enriches the dance.
Any examples from any of the films that you can give that you've seen, basically any kind of representation, misrepresentation, or some positive?
Well, so for example, recently there was a movie Bang Bang with Hrithik Roshan, and in the song Tu Meri, they had both a mix of traditional and modern all together. They had the main actors, dancing modern jazz style choreography, but in the background they had traditional Bharatanatyam or classical dancers or in traditional costume and doing dance movements. But the beats of those music and the rhythm of the music still lends to be able to do that choreography. So I think that's actually fused quite well. And as I mentioned before, the Nagara Sangdol dance that was done in the movie Ram Leela. So that's a Garba style dance, in celebration of Navratri festival. I thought that was, very well done, and certainly far from detached from the, the Indian culture and the context of that scene.
What is your view on folk classical dances, basically? How they were using it before in 60s, 70s, 80s Indian films, and now? Is there any big difference?
I think just overall the whole Bollywood industry has just evolved so dramatically. I think when it first started in the 60s, 70s, it was still in its infancy really, but it was very much appealing to an Indian audience, and they could relate to the movies. Over time, it's definitely getting more towards those bigger Hollywood-style blockbuster type films, appealing to a wider audience, appealing to the younger generation, and appealing to a non-Indian audience. It has had some appeal around Asia and it's in the neighboring countries of India for the last few decades. But I think in the last decade or two, it's really exploded, and now it really is a globalized phenomenon. For people from developed countries and developing countries, all can have access to these films. So yes, I think so.
Any filmmaker particularly that you think utilize folk forms in their films quite well?
One of the songs we're doing in one of our dance medleys, where we have a fusion, we're showcasing different styles. So we use the song Rang De Basanti, which was a very popular film. It was probably about 15 years old now. But they had a really nice Bhangra dance and song in that. So I think we've used that that song in some of our choreography. Another Bhangra one was that's quite popular at the moment is Sarigali, which was used in Tanued's Manu. But there's so many examples. I mean, nearly every movie, when you watch it, it has a mix of, that's the thing, it has a mix of both the more traditional style songs and then the more modern type of songs as well. So I think Bollywood is such a melting pot, and it's such a it addresses so many universal themes. But one of the things that's always very apparent, I think, is the tradition versus modern. I think that comes up a lot when you watch these films, and somehow they still seem to fuse it all together. You still have those family values, those values of culture and religion, and yet you still can veer towards action films or thrillers, and somehow they will still manage to bring in some of those very traditional Indian themes into those sort of films. But having said that, it's also evolved a lot now. There's a lot more new filmmakers coming into the industry where they're veering away from the Bollywood recipe, I suppose you could call it, getting much more into more artistic type films, and a little bit, not the traditional sort of film that we've seen over the decades.
And what do you think of the new styles, basically, new styles they're using in different folk films? Basically?
The new dance styles. I think it's fantastic. I think it gives that appeal to a wider audience, and the younger generation. And I think that it's as I said, they fuse the tradition and the modern together so well in many of these movies. So even though you might have some hip hop style dancing, or you might have some tap dancing, or funk jazz types dancing, some numbers in the song might have that, in the movie might have that, but at the same time, later on in the movie you'll have a beautiful traditional Garba dance, or you'll see some classical style dancing. So I don't think it detracts from the movie. I don't think it detracts from the movie or from the Indian culture in it.